and welcome once again to the How Long to Beat podcast. You're listening to the dulcet tones of Rick, speaking in the third person and alongside co-host Alex and Paula. I don't know, it happened, deal with it. We're going to talk about the games we've beaten, retired, and have been playing this past week. Specifically Dungeons of the Endless, in addition to all the other stuff. We're going to, this week, tackle the topic of spoilers. When are they? What are they? How?
Why
and then,
are they?
But there's no reason to ask why we're going to do the final thing that we do every single episode. Our favourite thing of the episode and your favourite thing of the episode. It's something that we play from time to time. I'm going to get you one of these times. It's How Long to Beat
the game.
The game.
See, you're just going to make us off sync now.
Yep.
I'm just staring. I'm like...
we didn't need any help to do that, let's be fair. Right, in terms of completions this week, Paula has nada. Alex has got lots. So I'm going to jump in with mine first because mine are quite quick. First of those is Part-Time UFO. It's great. It's really, really, really good. What I thought was one level turned into 3 because the end game sort of stretched itself out a little bit longer. But just more of that same goodness. I think I can see the appeal of it on mobile a little bit more, having played it on Switch, because it is very sort of quick fire burst stuff. Having said that, the Switch port has a lot of extra content. It's nice to play with a joypad rather than what I imagine is a less than ideal analog, like a virtual analog stick sort of situation on a mobile. The game itself is wonderful. I'm sure it shines on either, and whichever you have more ready access to, I can't recommend this game highly enough, particularly at the price. It's just a few pounds, or your regional equivalent. Perfect for the money. Can't complain at all. The second game I beat is Olia for the PC. Fine TM. There wasn't anything inherently bad about it, but there wasn't anything standout amazing about it either. The pixel was pretty good. The combat was enjoyable across the whole 4 and a bit hours runtime. The story didn't make a whole lot of sense, but I get the impression that was kind of the point. It didn't outstay its welcome, engaged me the whole way through. These kinds of games are kind of a dime a dozen, and that's the tricky thing with whether you should necessarily go and seek this game out yourself. I got it on a half-price sale, and I think it was well worth that price for myself. Its unique mechanic doesn't do a lot. So as fun as the game is, and particularly as weighty as the combat feels, because it is quite a... how to describe it? It's beefy combat. The hits feel like they've got weight and heft behind them. I think it's the kind of game that you wait for a really nice sale for to get, though. I don't know that it's really worth full price in the context of all the other things that are available there. Have either of you played on either of these games? I feel like no.
I've looked into Part-Time UFO just because it's by HAL Laboratories. That's it. Oh my god, my brain! I was like, the Kirby people.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. So I've looked into it, but I've never actually pulled the trigger on it. It does sound fun.
And you've got a nice new phone, so it probably runs beautifully on that.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Maybe that should be my phone game.
And it's much cheaper on phone. I think it's literally half the price it runs on Steam, and it almost never goes on sale on Steam anyway. So on Switch, forgive me. I think if particularly you're going to be traveling a little bit, I think it's probably a phone one.
Oh, that does seem like a great call, actually. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's only $5 here, and it's double that on the Switch, which I get, Switch tax.
Yeah.
But
there's extra content in the Switch version as well. There's a co-op mode. There's an extra dungeony thing, stuff that I have yet to explore, and I will.
Okay, yeah, that's shit I probably wouldn't do anyway. So,
and also for levels that are 1 to 2 minutes at a time, it's just perfect phone gameplay. Pick up in 2 minutes. You got time while you're taking a poop. Whatever works for you.
They'll turn into an hour on the throne. No, I'm living with you, man.
Just one more level, Mom.
Yeah, there was I was watching Fire Island last night. There's a new rom-com that came out, and at one point he loses his phone, it gets in the water, and he's just like, "What am I gonna do on the toilet?" And I was just related way too hard. Back in the day, it was magazines. Now it's the phone.
So relatable. Right, that's me. Those are my 2 games. I have nothing more to say about those. Alex, you've had a beefy set of completions by contrast to last week.
Very much have. So I I like almost 100% in Lost Judgment. Like, not the stupid like town go mission shit. I fuck that noise. But like, I did just about everything in this game, and this game is so fucking good. Like, it is so good. And okay, where do I start? I have some critiques. It's a 9 out of 10 for me, but that's probably like a 95 out of 10 because there's just a couple little things that I wish the game had kind of done to solidify it a little more. Because the main story of the game, I think, is really unique and fascinating. And like, okay, so Judgment tells a story that very much is about Yagami. Like, it's Yagami's journey, and Yagami kind of developing and like understanding where his role fits within the legal system. Right? Like, he's really navigating, like, what does it mean for him to be a part of a legal system? And he realizes that a lawyer is not that world for him because he finds the system is quite broken, and he wants to seek to kind of help it. But he does that through like the grayer areas of the law, in the sense that like he's kind of a detective, right? He's like, I don't think the cops have it. I don't think the lawyers and all that shit have got this shit. I do think we need a system, but like, it's him figuring this all out, right? And so this one feels a little more like, now Yagami knows where he fits within this. So now how do you tackle larger issues that maybe that the justice system can't solve? And I was like, fucking hell, that's a huge thing that they tackle. And they mostly get it, but not really. And to be fair, how the fuck could they? They took on the problem of bullying in schools. If you expect them to come away with like, here's the answer, you're fucking naive. Like, it's just not, that's not possible. And I also didn't really want them to. And I actually think what they end up doing is, because they create an antagonist that's like kind of sympathetic because like, of like what's happening within the story. And like, they comment on that too. And anyway, so like the main story itself, I think, is pretty good, but it turns into the RGG nonsense where the plot is crazy and it gets huge and it goes like out there. And I enjoyed it to a degree, but you do get to a point where you're like, okie dokie, we can wrap it up a little bit. But the school stories that they've done, they really did something amazing here, where they were like, okay, in Yakuza games, you've got your main story beats, and then there's all the side cases, right? And they're usually pretty silly. And in this one, they still have side cases, but there's a lot less of them, and they're actually more tied into mini games and things within it than in other ones. So you actually kind of like, by the end of it, I had pretty much every single side case unlocked, and I didn't even really go after them that intensely. There was only maybe one or two I was missing that I think kind of appear in Premium Adventure, which is kind of the mode that you get when you complete the game, where it's like, oh, you don't have to worry about shit. You can just explore the town and do any kind of missions that you want. But instead, they've done this thing called School Stories, where there's 10 clubs. And I won't spoil them because I really think it's enjoyable to find out what the types of clubs are. But each club has its own mini game involved in it. Like, one of them, I will say, it's literally just you play Virtua Fighter 5. I was like, oh, okay. And then there's others, like there is a boxing one that is like a legitimate boxing mini like game in and of itself. Like, it holds itself up there with some of the best actual boxing games that I've played. I was like, holy crap, this is really good. And what they do is that they're all interconnected. So you're an advisor for what's called the Mystery Research Club for this young girl, Amasawa, who like, you're kind of investigating the school, and she thinks that you're putting cameras to like peep up skirts or whatnot. So like, she like tries to like take you down, and then learns like, oh wait, you're actually investigating, and so then you do this whole thing. And so it's this like, it is like at least a 20-hour odyssey of side content that is honestly an entire game in and of itself, and multiple games within it. And it creates this overarching story that can actually be completed almost in any order, really. Like clubs will unlock as you go through to certain points, but you can kind of progress in them at your own kind of pace and desire. But they tell one large overarching story, and that story is really fun. And you really get to know all the characters really well, and all of these kids in the clubs, and you get to know them and like create like attachments to them. And like, I was like, holy crap, this is really well done. Because something RGG has always been good at is character, right? Like, they're really good at creating characters and getting you invested in them. Like, I love all the characters in these games now. I'm like, oh, they're great. And sometimes they'll bring back characters from like the first one. You're like, I know you. Anyway, it's just kind of like fun that way. And so my only complaint, honestly, is that the main story has you aiding this young woman named Coda who gets bullied. And there are these like little group of bullies there. But they're completely separate from the school stories. So that as you're playing the main story, you're kind of helping this person you don't fucking know and don't give a shit about, really. Like, because you just don't really know the character. Like, she's a no one. Like, she has nothing, does nothing, basically, in that story. And it felt to me like what they really did is they really missed an opportunity to marry the main story partially with the school stories that you do. Like, if one of those characters from the school stories was actually the character being bullied, I feel like you would have this stronger connection to the main story. I also think, though, that very likely the school stories were developed side by side with the story itself, in the sense that, like, I don't know how they work, but there had to have been a team who was set on creating the school stories and a team who was doing the main story. There just had to be. Like, I don't know, maybe not, but like I feel like it's got to be the case because they're huge and they don't feel like they really connect in ways that I think they could have that would have been really impactful. So that was kind of my only complaint, but I really love what they're trying with this, and I really hope that, you know, if we get another, because I know there's questions about, you know, where the Judgment series is going, but I think they'll keep going. They'll figure shit out with that other actor. The series is doing very well for them. So I have a feeling, and especially with like this DLC that they released, which we'll talk about in a second, I think they've got plans for the future with it, and I really hope that the next time that they continue this idea of creating like your main story and then like really substantial side stories that are actually like full, you know, games in and of themselves, and maybe marry the two of them a little bit together. I think that would be good. This is my favorite game I've played in a long time. Like, in terms of open world games, fucking nothing touches this shit. Like, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of enjoyment, like, it's just, I was looking at Assassin's Creed, you know, like, because I got some of them, and I was like, oh, and Origins is out now with like the increased frame rate, and I'm like, but it'll never be as fun as Yakuza. It's just those moments where I'm like, I don't want to anymore. Like, this is what I want from these open worlds, these really detailed, fun environments that you can run around in.
But that's the contrast, right? Like the Yakuza, they're always like a very dense open world. Where the problem you tend to find with Ubisoft in particular, but also a lot of other ones, is that you end up with this really wide but shallow pond, and it's so sparsely populated. And you find with most people and most games, a denser, smaller world will always be preferable.
Yeah, I agree with you, because that's what I feel in this, is that like every inch of this world, there's something interesting to do, but there's not too much, you know? And like everything that you can do feels crafted and feels like meaningful, you know? Even their mini games, you're like, you know, and I didn't even do this, but like there are drone races where like you can just do a whole side quest of just fucking drone racing all the time if you want. You could deck your drone out. Like, there's a huge drone racing thing in this. And I was like, I'm good. I don't want to. I don't like drone races. But then I was like, but I'll do motorcycle races. You know, like, it's just, there's all this shit in it. And like, I don't know. And also the Dragon engine is fucking gorgeous. Like, this game looks so good. Their animations are really stepping up a notch. Even the henchmen, who all kind of look the same, look much better than they've used to. So yeah, I don't know. The English voice acting is phenomenal in this one. Like, I did First Judgment in Japanese, but this one I was like, fuck it, I'll do it in English, and really good. Even to the point where my partner, who likes to watch once in a while, was like, wow, dub's really good. It's like, right? Okay. Because usually she's like, fuck that, let's do it in Japanese, and I usually agree with her, but they did a really amazing job, and they really added a lot of like emotion and intensity to it, which I really appreciated. So yeah, Lost Judgment, I cannot recommend it enough. I think Writing on Games does a story, like the YouTube channel. Like, he did a video on Judgment and Lost Judgment. And I remember he said Judgment was like his game of the year when it came out. And I'm like, yeah, like this one for last year, I'm like, this was a game of the year for me for sure. Like, when I look at that year of games, had I played this last year, I'd have been like, yeah, this is the one. Because it's everything that's great about games. And now, on from that, so I played like, I think it was like 46 hours or something. It's a long game. They also released what's called the Kaito files. So one of the main characters, Yagabi's like best bud, is Kaito. And Kaito is a ex-Yakuza. And you don't know like a lot about him. Like he's kind of comedy relief. He's like a big monster of a man kind of thing. Like he's just very like, hey Yagami, like that kind of dude. He's kind of like Kiryu a little bit, but without the hero kind of like god complex sort of thing. Because like Kiryu's very like, you know, like I am like he's like that noble warrior. You know what I mean? Like he never wants to like do more harm than's needed, but like Kaito's just like, I'll fuck up an asshole. Like, you know, he's that kind of guy. He's like, I don't care, I'll beat the shit out of him. But we don't get to know like a ton about him. So they created this DLC, and okay, so first off, I think some people talk about it. The DLC is fairly expensive. I think it's maybe like half the price of the game or something. I think it is 100% worth it because this is frankly a small game's worth of content that is extremely polished. Like you play this and you're like, oh, this feels like it's just more of the game, but more streamlined. And it's not like Kaito isn't Yagami reskinned. Kaito is his own fighter entirely. Oh, I didn't even mention the fighting in this is the best the series has ever been. It's incredible. So fluid, so smooth, and so much fun. And I do kind of recommend the season pass because they give you a shit ton of stuff in Lost Judgment that's really fun and good, including a fighting style called Boxer that is like fucking goat. Like it just decimates the enemies. But Kaito fights a little bit like Kiryu. He's got a tank style where like he picks up kind of like the beast style from Yakuza 0 where like he picks up items and just mashes people with them, like, you know, pick up a fucking scooter and just beat the shit out of a guy, which I'm not even sure Yagami could pick up scooters. I don't remember him ever being able to, so I think Kaito could pick up more stuff. And like they show his character even through, there's these chase sequences, and in the chase sequences Yagami is always really nimble, and so he'll like jump onto the sides of buildings and stuff if there's like people in his way, or like he'll dodge them. And Kaito, he just goes like, "Get the fuck out of the way!" like that, and like pushes people out of the way as he's running.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And he's such a bulldozer. So he's got this tank style and a beast style, and like instead of Yagami, who's like, you know, always thinking, Kaito is very much like an animal in the sense that for his detective stuff, he's got like primal sense and hearing and like seeing. So like he can like sniff things all the time. And so like all over the world, there's like these little like sniff icons. And like I got all of them. I 100%ed the Kaito files. Like I got everything in it because it was super fun. And it's only like 7 hours, I think. But it tells this really amazing story. That's like, honestly, like it had themes from Yakuza Kiwami, but it felt a little bit like, it felt like Yakuza Kiwami if the story was good, because Kiwami's is not very good. It was the first Yakuza game, all right, you know. But this was just like, to me, it was like, oh look, this is the refined story, and also look what they can do when they don't add any fluff into it. Wow, like really concise, incredible story that really sets up Kaito in a way that I'm really hoping, and I would kind of love it if, because they've done this with the Yakuza series where they've split the story between, you know, I mean, Yakuza 0, the best of the bunch, really, is split between Kiryu and Majima. And I'm like, man, I would love it if the next Judgment game was split between Yagami and Kaito, because they've really shown that Kaito can stand his own as a character. And he's now developed this kind of cadre of really interesting people, and he's left in a really fascinating personal place at the end of this DLC that felt like a really satisfying story, but also feels like it sets up for Kaito to really kind of bloom and become more of a character even more. So yeah.
And it's interesting, the real life context as well, right? Isn't it? Because if I remember correctly, there's some rumblings that this is maybe the publisher testing the water for him becoming the protagonist if they can't get around the legal dispute with whoever plays the Judgment guy.
And yeah, Taka something. Shit.
Spoken like someone with absolutely zero knowledge of the series, but yeah, the Judgment guy.
The Judgment guy. Yeah, no, I know. Well, yeah, I've heard this stuff. The more I look it up, though, the less I can actually find any good, like I don't know where the rumors are coming from. I know it's because there was issues with getting the PC port. Takuya Kimura, that's it. Takuya Kimura, yeah. Because he's like a big actor there or whatever. Because there was issues with the PC ports. I think they didn't want to have him on PC or something. But anyway, I would believe that, and if that was the case, then they fucking did a good job. Like, honestly. The only thing that could be an issue is that Kaito is a lot like Kiryu, right? And as fun as he is, I'm a little concerned that if they go full in on him, that now you're like maybe like going a little too close to Yakuza territory, right? Now they do distinguish him a lot. Like I think he is very distinguished from Kiryu, but I would love to see in an ideal world him and Yagami working together but being playable characters and like really like creating a story that like, you know what, honestly exploring their friendship as the next one I think would be kind of cool because like they don't really explore it that much. Like I mean they're best buds and you know they're connected and we kind of know why they're connected because they have this shared kind of Yakuza daddy who is their like adoptive father basically in a lot of ways, right? And so that's there, but I would also kind of love to see like, because Kaito's always kind of like playing second fiddle to Yagami in a lot of ways, right? Like Yagami kind of gave him a job, he's sort of there, and I would love to see something that kind of pushes them to like really figure out who they are for each other in some ways, and like and outside of that. Anyway, that's my dreams for the future. All I can say is that they're in such good hands right now. Like they have really done the most important thing, which is set up the Yakuza series for 7, right? They've set up that new character because Ichiban is incredible. And now they have Yagami and Kaito, who are both awesome protagonists in this other separate series. And so I'm just like, they're in a great place, man. And like getting to play this game where you're in Ijincho. And now the Kaito Files is all in Kamurocho, which I just love being there at this point. But like now knowing that you can basically with each one introduce new locales that you can then use in the other game. That's fucking genius, man. Like, I was like, personally, I just respect that for game developers. I'm like, yo, you guys have made a great cheat code here that to me feels really fun because in one, you know, in Yakuza 7, you're strolling around doing turn-based battles, and then you come in Judgment, you just fucking wipe the floor with assholes because you're like, I am all powerful. Whereas in Yakuza 7, you're like you need to be careful a little bit because let's just say turn-based battles, you can fucking lose. But Lost Judgment is much easier, I'd say, than other Yakuza games, in a good way. I think anyone who's played a Yakuza game knows that the bosses fucking suck. They're so cheap sometimes, like, oh my god. And not the case in Lost Judgment. They're very well balanced and like overall probably a little too easy. You could bump up the difficulty if you really wanted to, but I also don't think any of us come to the Yakuza games to have hard-hitting, incredibly challenging beat-em-up fights. It's just not why I'm here. You know, I'm here for decently challenging fights, but not the worst. Anyway, that's it on Lost Judgment. Like I said, buy the game, get the season pass. It's interesting. I felt good buying the season pass because I was like, you know what? I bought both Judgment and Lost Judgment on sale for like more than half off. I got to play Yakuza 0 and fucking Yakuza 7 for free through Game Pass. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of cool with this. And then I bought Kiwami and Kiwami 2 like really on sale because you can get them for like $5 now occasionally when they're on sale. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to throw some money their way because they've done some good shit. I'd be really curious to see how their like numbers have grown since Game Pass because I have a strong feeling that made some big waves in the Western market for the Yakuza series. I don't think they've like given out anything, but they might have. Who knows? If someone knows, tell me. So anyway, that's Lost Judgment and Lost Judgment: The Kaito Files. I also beat Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, and when I say I beat it, I beat it with one of the knights. It's kind of a roguelike puzzle game kind of thing, right? I think I talked about this a bit last week. Very fun. You go through, you're kind of like attacking enemies, and you try to get them in like big groups, and you're basically just trying to escape every level. There's like 3 chests that you get, and you get keys, and then you'll get a little door. And I think, so like the ending I got is like the basic one, right? Where you go through and you defeat the puzzle master at the end of like all these levels, and you kind of get the credits and you escape. I believe there's like a truer ending or like a more a challenge thing where you have to collect pieces of this key as you're going through all the levels. You get to these little portals, and then I think when you get the full key, it like unlocks something near the end that's like maybe like a special final actual like you really beat the game kind of thing. But I have no interest. It's a roguelike. You know what I'm like with these things, man. I never fucking played it all the way through. I beat it once and then I go, oh, I'm done. Unless you give me really a good reason to come back. even Hades couldn't pull me back. I remember like I think I beat it, and I beat like one of the initial things, and then because you have to do it like 10 times, right? And I was like, how about you suck my dick? I'm not doing it 10 times. I was like, no,
yeah, lol. I beat it twice and I watched the rest on YouTube.
Exactly, that's what I did too. Well, I'm sorry, but like, what the fuck? No.
I have some sympathy with Hades because there was kind of at least gameplay justification. It's like, I get it, but also I know.
Oh yeah, I get it. Don't get me wrong, I get it, but no, I'm not fucking doing that. And I, for other people, they love it, and I'm like, kudos to them, right? I'm happy for them.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it's fun. I think it's really good. It's a really quality title. If you like Shovel Knight, I think you'll really enjoy this. If you enjoy puzzle games of any variety, like especially the drop down kind of puzzle games, you're gonna love this one as well. It's really fun, worth the price too. And it's only like $20. I was like happy to pay that for this experience. I also beat a very cool game called Strange Horticulture, which I'm not going to say a ton about this because I know Paula's going to play this soon, I think, because she's got this. It is a detective botany game where, oh my God, fuck, how do I even explain this? It's so cool. Okay, so you're a horticulturalist, right? Which means you sell plants to people, right? So think of it almost like Papers, Please in some ways, where you've got like a shelf of all these plants and they're unidentified, and you have all of these things that you can use. You've got a book that has pages that help identify plants, but they don't show you pictures of the plants. They'll just describe the plants a bit and like kind of what they do, maybe other ways that they're called. And so what you're doing throughout the game is you are trying to identify your plants, give the correct plants to people, but then there's also a big mystery that's going on, kind of this fantastical mystery, and it's like in the 1800s, and they're all fake plants. Like it's a different world. And so you'll ring a bell, customers will come up, they'll ask for something. Once you find it, you have to label them yourself, right? So once you figure it out, it'll confirm that is the plant. Then you have little labels that you put on, you type them out, you figure those things out. There's a map, and so you can go exploring, which will help you find new plants, will help you find different things. There are choices that you can make throughout the story that will really impact the end of it. The only thing that kept this game from being a 10 out of 10 for me is that it just has basically one ambient track that repeats. That is nice, but it gets grating eventually. So what I did, and this worked really well, was I literally looked up like detective thriller playlist on YouTube, and I just turned the music volume down and I played that, and it was so good. I was like, oh yeah, it got like real intense. The part where I was just kind of like, I wish you guys had just kind of done that with it. And I suggested to Paula, I sent her the link, and I was like, just play this. Trust me, it's good.
Alternatively, if you're at home, it could be a great one for a podcast, say the How Long to Beat podcast.
It's true. It's just the only thing is you have to do a lot of reading. So I really do think it should be instrumental, because there's a lot of reading in this. So you should.
Let's set my joke to one side, then forget that.
But no, because I thought about that too, but I was like, nah, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And
it's not a very long game. Like it's like 5-6 hours long, I think. So just find a 5-hour little playlist video and you're good to go. And it's amazing because by the end of it, you really like start to know these plants. Like I had someone come in and they're like, oh, I need this particular thing. And I was like, oh, I know exactly what plant you need. Drag it and bring it in without having to check my stuff. And I'm like, I know what you need. Like that kind of deal. I had them all arranged alphabetically so I knew which ones to pick. And you end up making like elixirs and like all these things. And there's all these cool items that you'll find that'll do different stuff. And I like kind of like, I guess you could say 100% it in the sense that like I ended up labeling all the plants, which was really fun because they let you kind of do something at the end if you've got most of them. So yeah, really cool game. Not very expensive, pretty cheap. It kind of stealth released this year, and it's like one of the top rated games on OpenCritic for the year, actually. But I never heard anything about it. I was like, I don't know what the fuck game was, and I just I don't even know how I found it. I think it was because I was looking at Fantasy Critic League, and I was on OpenCritic, and I was like, what's this game? I just gave it a click and was like, oh, interesting. So yeah, anyway. Sorry, there was a lot. I played a lot this week. But Paula, you got this one coming up soon, right? Oh, you're muted.
There. No, I wasn't muted. The microphone wasn't just picking up my voice for some reason. But anyways, Well, I haven't beaten anything like in a while. I have been playing a lot of stuff, but I also retired one of the games. So the pedestrian. I already explained that it was like a game where you are like these signpost kind of like actor, and you have to um, rearrange like some signpost in a way that you can solve the puzzle and go to the next level. The thing with it is that it grew old really quickly for me, and it got a little bit tedious the more stuff they added to it. So I just retired. Like, it is a good game. It is not like the a good puzzle game like for me in particular. So yeah, that's my whole story with the pedestrian. I'm very curious about your retirement, Rick. What happened there?
What happened is that Grezzo, the sort of second party developer who ported Luigi's Mansion to the 3DS, did not get the controls right at all. So obviously, I mentioned it briefly on the podcast last week. I just started it at that point. It is very, very pretty. Visually, they did a really good job. But the whole sort of vacuuming ghosts thing relies on you being able to aim at the ghosts, which is kind of tricky because you only have the one stick. And even on a new 3DS, which I'm using, because as well as sort of aim left and right, you have like up and down, the little camera nipple on those consoles is not great for like precise control. It's really good for like nudging a camera around. I did dabble with Xenoblade Chronicles' port briefly, and it was quite good for that kind of purpose. But it doesn't really work well in this context. And that's compounded by the fact that whenever you try and sort of activate the flashlight strobe bulb thing, that locks you into a facing direction, and then everything you do is strafing. So because that is more powerful the longer you charge it up, what you really want to do is charge it and then aim where you want to go. But you can't really do that because the moment you start charging it, you're in a fixed camera direction. So if you're running away from a ghost, what you actually want to try and do is stop, turn around, but to do that, you're either going to aim way off or run back towards them in very claustrophobic tight rooms. And then, and only then, charge this thing that relies on being charged as much as you can get away with charging it. I played the first few rooms of it, got very frustrated very quickly. I may well emulate the GameCube version at some point in the future and give it a try, but I just don't have the time or the patience or the inclination to try and fight through it on 3DS, which is a shame.
This is the first one, right?
It is.
Yep.
I mean, I don't remember Dark Moon
Right.
having a bad reception at all, so I wonder if that's controlled very, very differently. I do
'Cause
have a copy of that.
That's the
so-
one that I beat, Dark Moon, and I beat in the new one, which is fantastic. It's the best of them all.
So I've
I'd say.
heard, yeah, number 3.
Yeah. Dark Moon, I had a lot of fun with, I remember, but I've never actually played the first one, and I don't think I ever will, probably, just because now that I've played 2 and 3, it's like, I have a feeling it's not better than the second and third one.
Well, it's an interesting one because 2 released on the 3DS before 1 was ported. So, although they may well function differently mechanically, it does seem strange that that one worked just fine, and then you had a lot of people complaining about the controls of 1. Like I said, I haven't played 2 yet, so it'll be interesting to see how I find that. I may well nudge that up the priority list.
So I think
just so I've got a comparison.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't remember if Luigi's Mansion is different in this sense, but I think what was different in Dark Moon is that they kind of took a level-based approach to it more than like
one big mansion. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that actually was better suited to the 3DS, to be honest.
I can imagine that.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get far enough to know whether the level design was a problem. That's the thing. It's just the controls were so on the face of it awkward. It just put me off the whole enterprise. So, like I say, may well go back to it on Dolphin or something like that. I will definitely give the sequel a try. I have the cartridge bouncing around, so I might as well. But for the time being, just wasn't something I wanted to give any more time to, unfortunately. And just to round out a clean sweep of retirements, you have one, Alex, by the name of Craftlands, which I've just had a quick look on Steam. Looks like that same difference, whatever.
It's a sock pop game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really fun. The only reason I retired is because I just got my fill. Like, do you know, I paid like maybe $1 for this. Like, it was very cheap, but it just looked fun. So it's basically like it's like a deck game, kind of, where like you're stacking resource. It's like the fuck? How do I even describe this? It's like a resource management deck game. So like you get like these booster packs, you open them up, and you're like making a village, and you're trying to survive, and you have enough food by the end of the day. And so like you have to like figure out like what combinations of stacks create new things. You'll receive ideas, like you sell things for coins, and you just go through, and like you can get all this. You can get chickens and animals, and like there's all this stuff that you can do, all these combinations. It's very fun, but it does get to a point where you get very overwhelmed because there's so much shit going on, and you're like, oh, what should I fucking do next? And you're just like, so I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm done. Like I did most of the stuff. Like I probably got like 3/4 of the way through, and then all that was left now was kind of the hard shit, and I was like, I think I'm okay now. Like I experienced this. I had fun with it. I recommend it for people who want to give it a shot. Because again, Sock Pop, they're fun. For those who don't know, I think Rick actually were the one who told me about this before. But they're like a collective who have a Patreon, and they put out small games every month, I think. And
I think it's every other month now, possibly.
Is it okay? Yeah, because they also have like they have like bigger games that they're working on, and then they'll put out these smaller things, and like this is one of those smaller ones. And some of them, this one I think in particular, Stacklands, I think was one of the ones that was kind of like very well received, because like I think they all, they're up and down, right? I mean, come on, they're making a bunch of games. But some you get like where you're like, oh, this is it, and this is one of those ones that's like that. And so I did enjoy it, but I had no reason to keep going. I was like, I had my fun.
That's understandable. Yeah, they're a weird one. I've played a couple of the games and like the ones that I've played. I pay for the monthly Patreon, but I really don't get my money's worth. But that's just a me thing where I'm not doing enough with the games that they release. I probably should do more with that, really, or cancel it. But it's there if people want to go and check it out. It's a cool little initiative. It's a nice way of doing it, I think.
And their shit's on sale like a lot on Steam, so pick it up when they're a little cheap. A few that you really want, have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shall we move on to what we're playing then?
Let's.
Who wants to talk?
Do you know what? I'll jump in because again, I don't have a lot going on. Certainly not a lot new going on. I'm in a bit of a lull, sort of consolidation period. So still playing Golf Peaks. Well, let me try that again. I'm still playing Golf Peaks on Android. I'm on World 9 of 10. And then I've got a few bonus missions to play after that, but I reckon I'll have that finished soon. It's still excellent. It's still throwing new tile sets and rules at me. Still feels very creative. It's got a lot of life in it. It's worth saying the music is lovely ambient stuff. And the art style is so clean. It all comes together so wonderfully. It's a real nice package. And the controls are perfectly suited to mobile. It's really designed around that medium. I can't speak highly enough of this game. It's a wonderful little time waster puzzly type thing. Again, on my specific weird phone, the formatting is not always perfect, but I'd be remiss to hold that against the game. The game itself is really, really excellent, and I suspect it's gonna be done before too long because I keep going back to it in all the little gaps of time that I have. Still playing Risk of Rain 2. That's still brilliant. Still playing The Witcher. That is still surprisingly good for the age and the everything else. I am resolved to try and finish this soon. I know I keep saying that, but I've got, as of the time of recording, I've got a couple of uninterrupted days off where it's just going to be me at home, and I've got like a few bits and bobs that I need to do, but I've got some peak gaming time, and so help me, some of that will be spent playing The Witcher. Some of it will also be spent playing God of War Ascension. I'm about a third of the way through this. I think someone got the wrong memo and thought they were making a Greek-themed Uncharted spin-off. It's a very strange experience because you've got like Uncharted-esque climbing segments. Way too many you fall into a slidey pit and you've got to move yourself left and right segments. It doesn't feel like God of War about 50% of the time. Now, the 50% of the time that it is God of War, once you get over the slight sort of mechanical changes that I mentioned last time, the God of War side of the game is actually quite good. It's more God of War. It does what you're expecting it to. It still feels and looks and plays very, very well. Definitely feels a bit phoned in terms of enemy variety and world design, and also the story to the extent that it has one. But as a package, it's such a weird mishmash of things in all the other influences that it's taking. I'm really excited to play Daddy of War, God of War for the PS4, not only because of just how many plaudits that game got, but you like that one, did you, Daddy of War?
I do like that one. That's
Boy!
good.
Boy! But having played all the series, you can really tell that by Ascension, they've done everything they could and or wanted to do with the structure and the format that they'd built up. And you can see them sort of trying to do something else. I think in this instance, it really doesn't work. I think where they looked was possibly the wrong place, or the way that they implemented it didn't work. Some of that's maybe me personally as well, because I've always found the Uncharted games horrendously overhyped. I find the climbing sections astonishingly boring. You're literally just pointing your stick in a direction and watching the thing. It's not good gameplay as far as I'm concerned. Ditto the slidey segments. Like if you have one or two, cool, that's great. Like the Dead Space approach, where you have that one bit, minor spoiler, where the tentacle grabs you and you're in this on rails thing. But it's a curio. It's not like a staple mechanically of how that game works. So I don't think they got it right in this instance, but it's going to be so interesting to see the evolution of it and where they then take it in the complete sort of reimagining of God of War as a property that seems to have happened on PS4. Seems quite short though. HLTB have it around about the 6 hour mark. I'm just over 2 hours in. I suspect I'll have it done. I normally fall a bit under those times anyway, so we'll see how that goes. And the last one I'm still playing is Days Gone. Still great in short bursts. Still nothing groundbreaking. It's one of those, I think I'm probably just going to be chipping in and out of it for the next while. And eventually it's like, oh, it finished now. Oh, right. Such a weird one. I feel like I say this every time I talk about the game. Like, I get why it didn't work for so many people. It kind of works for me, but even for me, it's not really moving the needle too much. But it is nice, and there are good things about it, and the moment-to-moment gameplay is pretty fun, particularly in the moments that it allows itself to give emergent gameplay. When you're trying to clear out a nest and then a horde shows up out of nowhere, as happened to me earlier today, and you end up like running for your life and just like picking things up on the fly. I think it's a shame that there aren't more opportunities for the game to give you that kind of situation to work around. I understand it's not so easy to design, particularly in such a big project with so many moving parts, but that's where the game is at its most fun, and those moments are too few and far between for me, I think. But again, free on PS Plus. Even if I end up giving up on it halfway through, I'll have done very well for the price. Right, which of you two would like to jump in and tell us about what you're playing? Paula's got her hand up. There we go. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So I haven't been playing. I want to say I haven't been playing much as I usually would like to play, but especially since I have a test coming up, so hopefully like next week I'll have like more progress, or at least have finished one of these games. So first of all, Variable Barricade. I have like barely dipped my toes on the fourth route of the game. Not much to say yet. Hopefully it is a good route, hopefully. Taiko no Tatsujin, the Grandmaster on Game Pass. I've been training to try to beat my boyfriend's score on some of the tracks, and it has been rather a fruitful endeavor in a way, because I've been getting better and better at this like kind of game. Still, I wish I could have an actual taiko drum. Still, that's still my little dream right now, to have one of those taiko drums to play that way. But the controller we have to do right now, which it's fair, it's still fun. One of the games I've been playing a lot more of is Murder by Numbers. I'm on the final case, and oh boy, this game has really been, the plot has been thickening a lot, and yeah, I really want to know like how this will end up, like what's gonna be like the ending of, I guess, the Scouts and Honor's little story here. and if it will be a happy ending. Plus, no, that would be spoilers, so I won't talk about it. So yeah. And also, I've been playing Genshin Impact. I'm still on the second region, that is Liyue, which is based on China. I really want to jump to the next region, but since it's not the case quite yet, I still have to meet with some important people here. And I'm pretty sure there's like 3 or 4 characters I haven't met yet, so this will take a while. Also, there has been finally a change in the banner, and I'm trying to get via. I'm hopefully gonna get what's the name of this character? Oh my god, someone's gonna be like not happy because I was forgetting Child's name. That is like one of the Anemo kind of like wind element characters of the game.
Yes, that one.
And Alex is just nodding like, yeah, not making any sense to you guys.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
The thing with Genshin Impact is that there are like 7 elements that are I'm trying to remember the exact names, because it's like Electro, that is electricity, Anemo, that is wind, Creo, that is ice. I don't remember what the name for the water one is. It's probably just water. Geo, that is earth. Dendro, that is kind of plants, but there aren't any characters with that element quite yet. And I'm missing one. Oh, fire. Yeah, fire.
Ah, yes. Yes, classic.
Classic. So right now, I'm trying to get one character that is like a wind-based character, Anemo-based, that is very, very popular, and it deals a lot of fucking damage, so I really want him on my party. But it is 5 stars, so I'm pretty much gonna have to roll 100 times with the free currency the game gives you. I'm praying to RNG so that the video systems actually favor me, because otherwise I'm just gonna have to start saving up for the next banner, because I'm not gonna get this Anemo boy without some heavy lag on my side. So yeah, that's Genshin Impact. I'm still not so sure it was a good idea to go back to Gacha Hell, but anyways. Oh, and on those like weird things that happen like at 2 a.m. the other day, I was like, oh, I wish I could play some Pokemon X. Hey, I should make it a Nuzlocke. So I don't know if I explained the rules of the Nuzlocke before, but here we go. First of all, you have to catch the first Pokemon you see on every route, and you only get to catch that first Pokemon you see on every route. You rule number 2. If the Pokemon faints, it dies. It is permadeath. You're fucked. A continuation of rule number 2 is that if your whole party dies, it is game over. And finally, you have to name every Pokemon, because that way you grow closer to them, and when they die, it is a lot more painful. So yeah, right now I started my adventure with a Fennekin, which, by the way, I was like, oh, I really need to make this random. So instead of rolling a dice, I asked my boyfriend, hey, can you choose a number between 1, 2, and 3? Okay, 2. Okay, that's Fennekin. Let's go. And I got like I got a Pikachu for some reason, which was like a rare encounter on the Santalon Forest. I got a Bibilian right now, which I haven't really used in battle. It's more like Death Fodder in case I really need to switch out to heal some of my more useful Pokemon. And for the first time, like ever, I have a Squirtle. I have never used a Squirtle in a Pokemon game, ever. So that's gonna be interesting. Hopefully, so far so good. Though I have to say, like, Pokemon X has the kind of like pacing problem in the sense that the distance between Gym 1 and Gym 2 is like for fucking ever.
That sounds like way too stressful to be fun overall, to be fair. I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but also, like, why?
Like, to be honest, it is way more fun when you have, like, when you are, like, nuzlocking with at least one other person, so you can, like, make almost like a chronicle of your adventures.
Yeah, but I mean, games are more fun with other people in general.
Fair enough. But in particular, I don't know. I like Pokemon that sometimes I just really need to spice things up. Yeah. And, well, permadeath seems to be the thing in Fire Emblem, so why not in Pokemon?
I'm also just messing around, but like I get it. I've actually considered doing Nuzlocke before just because I was like, I kind of want to play Pokemon again. Why not do it hard? But then I quickly realized that why I like older Pokemon is because it's fucking brainless. I'm like, I don't know what that says about me or Pokemon, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. I don't know. I like the more relaxed kind of gameplay that Pokemon has, but also like from time to time, it's like I need some drama in my gameplay, and
yeah.
I'm having more flashbacks to that Platinum Nuzlocke. Yeah, Cynthia was almost the end of that run. Anyway, for the other two games that I'm playing, I started playing Stardew Valley with my boyfriend. We're doing a co-op run on Game Pass. Oh yeah, Stardew Valley is on Game Pass, so that was a big help to convince him to join me on this adventure. So far, so good. Like, the way that the game is set up, I was kind of like doubtful it would be like any more like, I wouldn't say fun or engaging having like two people playing, but it's actually like quite a lot of fun. Like Rick said, like, or like you two said, like it is by default more fun to play something together than to play it by yourself. But yeah. And finally, I finished Case 1 on the Great Ace Attorney.
Yeah!
Adventures on Switch. And this one is gonna be sitting on my backlog for a little bit because I want to finish Murder by Numbers and then go to the strange, how do you say it? Horticulture?
Strange horticulture.
Horticulture, yeah.
You'll beat that in a day for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully, because I don't have a good track record of playing too many hours like lately because I've been rediscovering my love for books. So that's the other reason why I've been like completing less games lately. Don't hate me. So yeah, those are the games that I've been playing. Alex, take it away.
All right. Not a lot actually to do the same I'm playing because I just beat so much shit. Still playing Warriors Legend of the Blue Dragon. I mean, kind of. I'm not really playing it. I actually haven't played it in a while. I'm saving it for when I go away. And Final Fantasy IV Advance, same. I'm kind of saving it because it's like, it's a handheld game. But I did start playing Sifu on PC because it was on sale. And I think I'm also going to save this one for next month. Just because I don't want to get into too much like a PC game at the moment because I want to beat all my Xbox games, frankly. Well, a number of them. But Sifu is really, really cool. It's roguelite, I'd say. But I don't even know if that's the right way to quantify it. So basically it's a martial arts game, right? Where your master is killed, who's also your dad, and you're Sifu, and you're going on a revenge quest to kill these 5 martial artists, and it's over 5 levels, and you're killed by one of them at the beginning of the game, but you're kind of revived, and you have these magical. I'm sure they have actual cultural significance as well. I just don't know what they're in particular they're called, but there's like these sort of beads. And so the conceit of the game is that as you play, when you die, you age first by 1 year. Now, as you age, as you hit decade marks, your damage will go up, but your health will go down. And your health doesn't even go down by that much. It's not a ton. You just lose some of your health bar. Now, what's really interesting is that when you do die, you have like a death counter that starts at 0 and it'll tick up to 1. So then you're 20 years old to start. So the first time you die, you become 21. Now, if you kill the enemy that killed you afterwards, or, I'm not even sure what all the criteria is, but there's certain moments that you perform well, your death counter will return back to 0, right? But if you die again before doing that, so for instance, at a boss, which are quite difficult, your death counter doubles, right? So you'll go I guess it just creeps up by 1, I think, actually. That's more appropriate. So it goes 0 to 1, 1 to 2. So now imagine you've died and you go 2 to 3, you were 21, now you're 24, right? And so it increases a lot until you get to the age of 70, and then that's the last kind of point you can go to. Now, if you're say at 67 or something and they add 7, then that's fine. It'll just add a bunch to it, but then the next time you die, you're dead once you're over 70. And you can get these skills that you can unlock on the skill tree, and you can unlock them once in a run. But then if you unlock them 5 times, they become permanent upgrades. So really all you're doing is you pick which one's the best one as you go through a run, and you just put experience into that so that it fully levels up. I found out that the combat is actually really similar to Yakuza. And so when I got into it, I barreled through the first level and that first boss. I got through pretty darn good. I think I was at 25. I only died 2 or 3 times as I was going through it, which was pretty good, I think, for a first freaking go. Then I got my ass kicked by the second boss because I really was okay, I clearly don't know how to properly block and dodge yet. So this is a game where really you have to just practice like a kung fu master would and get really good and used to the controls. It's really fun. The takedowns are incredible. There's a moment that there's an old boy moment in here where you go through a hallway and you're fighting all these fuckers and it's friggin' awesome, man. And I just say that it's probably one of the best fighting games I've ever played in terms of beat 'em up brawlers, because it really focuses in on and what's cool is that when you can do these takedowns with Y and B, and when you do a takedown, because you build up this kind of meter on enemies by getting consistent hits on them, you can do this YB takedown, and if you take down an enemy, you actually restore a bit of your health. So they really incentivize you to hit the enemies at that point, take them down with a takedown. And you also want to you're really trying to do kind of crowd control, because you know how, so when I play Yakuza, and I kind of tested the other day because I was doing the Kaito files and I had to put a big, there's this guard move that you can do. And so I needed to get a bunch of them to unlock a thing. And I noticed that as I would wait, none of the other enemies would come at me. It's just the one guy, he'd look at me and he'd fight me, right? Even though there's 6 or 7 guys around me. That is not the fucking case in Sifu. In Sifu, one dude's attacking you, the other guy's and here I come. You're just oh shit. So you have to really do crowd control. And so a lot of that is genuinely run away from people, move, vault over something, make someone chase you, fucking hit them, pick up a weapon, smash them around, right? Really consider button mashing is not your friend, right? It'll get you so far maybe in that first level, but you'll get fucked by any of the bosses or even just some of the stronger enemies that you face as you go along. So yeah, there's 5 levels. When you beat a level though, if you die, you don't go all the way back to the start. You just return to the beginning of that level. And so you can actually go and then replay an earlier level to lower your amount of deaths that you've taken. So I'm probably going to spend some time just kind of not necessarily grinding, but playing through the first level. And what's also interesting is that as you beat a level, you'll get items that can unlock shortcuts within a level so that you can actually replay the level, but in shorter time, having to fight fewer enemies, which also means more likely that you don't raise your fucking death counter up crazy high, right? Until you can get towards the end of it.
Then is it you start off, say, level 2 from your best finish from level 1, in essence?
From your last finish, basically, I think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the idea. And then, and so on and so forth as you keep moving along, right? So I think it's a really, really intriguing, well-designed, smartly designed, I think, in terms of its elements coming together, right? I think the roguish elements. But this is also why I hesitate to call it a roguelike, because I'm it's really more of an arcade game that has some persistent upgrades to it, right? And like persistent things. But like, to me, it doesn't really feel roguelike-ish because it's not like the levels are changing as you play through them. That's not the idea. It's arcade. It's learning and mastering the techniques, the skills that you have, and the enemies and the situations that you're going to encounter, right? It's like, so that's really what that's why to me, like, I don't know, it doesn't feel as much because it doesn't feel like there is that level of randomness that you get in a lot of these roguelites. So that's actually why I like it more than roguelites, because it actually feels more like a crafted experience with some of these sort of elements that we've seen in recent games to make an arcade game feel more fun and more purposeful, and actually gives me a bit of an incentive to master the systems to get through it, you know? Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, instead of having a constant continue, so I just push my way through the game and not actually get good at it, it's like, no, here's the system that's going to punish you for playing poorly, but also encourage you to experiment and will also make it so that you're not just playing through a level for the sake of getting better. It's like, well, oh, here, you can also unlock some things that will help you the next time you play. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it feels a little more tangible to me.
It's kind of a halfway house between the persistent overall progression of a roguelite and, although it's an interesting application of the term arcade, that crafted short setup that you play again and again to perfect of an arcade game. Yeah. I think that's the thing, because it kind of sits in the middle. It's a tricky one to describe. It's one I have for PS4. I haven't started it yet, but it's one I've been keeping my eye on, and it does look really, really excellent. So,
well, maybe next time when you start it up, I'll play it alongside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because right now I wanted it. It was on sale for quite a bit, and like there was another, like, I had a coupon and stuff too. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get it. I kind of want to support these folks because they're a smaller developer. And I'm like, let's have fun. So anyway, that's Sifu. I recommend it. The other one that I just started, so I don't really have much to say, is Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. I got this for free again because GameStop does that fucking get a $40 game for free when you buy, like, what was it, like 5 used games or whatever. And so it was my birthday and I got a bunch of used games and I was like, okie dokie, Devil May Cry 5. I love Devil May Cry. I've never played the first 3, but I played, you know what, I think I might have played DMC first, like the like New Imagining, and then I played
the
Devil May Cry 4. Yeah. And so I played 4, the Ninja Theory one, which I liked. I think it's so fucking silly in its edginess. Like, it's so stupid, but it's a fun game. And then I played Devil May Cry 4. And so I've been kind of itching to play Devil May Cry 5. And this is like the special edition one is basically just the Xbox Series X one. It has like the Virgil mode added right into it. It's very pretty. It's fucking bonkers because it's Devil May Cry. I had to watch a video again to be like, what the fuck is the story of Devil May Cry again? I can't remember shit, man. It's been like, because like it was at least 2013 when I played DMC, right? Like it's been almost a decade. So I'm kind of like, I don't remember what's happened in these games. But stylish as fucking hell, man. Gorgeous, fun combat, fluid. Nero's new like mechanic arm thing he's got is super cool. I'm just digging. I'm playing the Nero Dante V path first because if I do come back later, I'll try the Virgil. But I don't think it's intended that you play Virgil first. I feel like that's a campaign you're supposed to play after you've played through the kind of standard way. So anyway, those are the games I'm playing right now. That's it. Why don't we talk about the one that we're all playing actually, which is Dungeon of the Endless, which I'll pop in real quick here. I think I get it now a little more. I think I get it. I think I do. I played a bunch more today actually, just so that I had something to fucking talk about on this segment. I was watching Stranger Things, the new season. I was like, oh, I better fucking play this game.
How good is it? I literally finished it just before we started.
It's great. That's it. You know what? Stranger Things is such a solid series, start to finish. I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's like an 8 out of 10 all the way through.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's how I would put it. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 all the way through, and like a good solid 8 out of 10. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so. The only thing with I'm getting a One Step from Eden vibe from this. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, still okay.
Well, it's just okay. So I understand a bit more. Like as I'm playing on 2 easy mode because I realized that that's actually just normal mode and easy is clearly hard mode. I was like, why do you do that game? You're fucking clearly for a very niche audience. Anyway, so and also on the Switch, there's all these other little characters. So I've been playing as a pug.
The pug is weirdly overpowered. But
Well, it's
can't
because
equip
you can't
items.
equip items, but doesn't matter because the pug's so strong. You just level the pug up, and the pug just fucking decimates. And then bulldozer as well, actually, because the bulldozer is also very strong. So okay, I got to like floor 4, 5. I think I got to floor 5 in my last run. And essentially, I understand a little more now that like you're going through and there's just I don't understand why I'm doing anything. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing really compelling me in this game. And I think that's where I'm getting hung up and why I mentioned it similar to One Step from Eden is that the tower defense stuff is okay. I kind of understand more now, like the turning on the power. I figured out how to turn power on. I only learned that I could level up characters by accident.
Do you know what? The irony is that's one of the few things the tutorial actually does tell you.
Yeah. I found the tutorial afterwards. I only found it after because the first time I played it, the tutorial, it skipped on me.
Well, if you flick the right stick left, I think it skips, which is such a dumb thing.
It was so stupid. I didn't know how to find it back, so I only found it like later. I was trying to find it because
you can do it in the options menu.
Yeah, it's in the options when you're playing the game. Yeah, so not at the start because I tried to find it at the start, so I played through run, and then eventually I found it, and I went through it, and I went, all right, well, kind of figured some of this stuff out by now.
Yeah.
But then, anyway, the food I only really learned partway through. Anyhow, so I'm figuring the industry, it's to build your stuff, your things.
It's not too dissimilar from like Age of Empires.
Yeah.
If you replace industry with wood and stone
right,
or whatever, like science is research or whatever.
It's like forgetting equipment and research to like build new things and stuff. My issue is I still don't understand how anything works together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't understand what items are. I don't understand what any of the things I'm building do. I don't really know. I know that I had to get things to a thing, but then monsters also just appear sometimes. And
that's in unpowered rooms. So this is the thing with the game.
Yeah.
The game does such a terrible job of onboarding. We touched on this briefly last time, but having played more, like it does become more and more clear. Particularly hearing your experience of I just figured this out. It's like but obviously I've played a bunch of this game previously.
Yeah.
And I kind of know what I'm doing with it because I've beaten the game before as well, not just played it before. So the whole game, in many ways, it's very RTS because it's all about managing your resources. Yeah. But there's also a trade-off between like trying to stock those resources up, particularly industry,
really
to build units to bring everything through. Industry is the most important resource because not only does it build all your defenses, but it also ensures that you can build the generators for your other resources, i.e. food and science.
Exactly.
And the other thing with the monsters is they will spawn in one of three situations. When you open a room for the first time, when you open a new room and there is an unpowered room from which the monsters can spawn, and when you are moving the crystal that's your power source from any unlit room.
Yeah.
So there are situations where you can like stumble across the stairs down in essence very early, have every room powered up, and just go.
And here's the thing: I felt like little me thought I was a smart guy, and I had found the path, and I had all the rooms lit up, and then I grabbed the crystal, and I didn't realize it just opened all the other rooms. So I was like,
"Yep,
well, fuck me," and then I died on the 5th floor, and I was like. Would have loved if the tutorial told me that when you pick up the crystal, all rooms open. I was like,
it's also worth saying to the extent that there is a story, it only really appears later on. Like,
Yeah.
once you get to floor 10, 11, 12, and it's a bit late by that point because, like you say, you're going to toil on the early floors a little bit at
It
first.
is. This is a case of a game that is clearly good mechanically. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing in this game that I'm like, that I have like major issues with, besides communication. And it's interesting because I haven't kind of fallen into this that often with games, because I feel like these days games are very careful about their audiences, right? But I'm noticing that in these roguelites, there is this world now, and I don't know if maybe it's a good thing, I don't know, but it's very much like, oh, this is designed for a group, I think, of individuals who really enjoy this particular thing, and then everyone else can fuck right off. Like, that's what it feels like. I'm like, so I'm glad you suggested, because I would have,
Pretty much.
I'm gonna be real with you, I would have dropped this game immediately had I had played this image. But that being said, I think I'm gonna try to clear it once. I think on Too Easy. That's my goal. I'm gonna try to clear it once, and then who knows? Maybe I'll enjoy it further I get in. But because because it's not bad. It's just it has a real communication issue.
Well, I'd say it's really good. In fact, before I start waxing on about this and what I've done with it, have you played much of it this past week, Paula? Do you want to chip in?
I haven't really played it this week, so I was really hoping to get a run on the following week for the next recording.
That's
sorry,
you've got
guys.
your live stuff on, haven't you? Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting for me because I played this on PC, and I think I was saying to you guys in the group chat that we've got going, it's noticeable even just from memory that the cadence is a little bit slower on Switch. You can pause at any time and like issue instructions that will be carried out when you resume the game. And because the camera's a little bit slower, you haven't got like mouse look or anything like that on here. And I think if I remember correctly, on some of the bigger maps on PC, when you go into the tactical map, which is ZL on Switch, on PC you can just click a point of it and go straight to it. You just don't have that facility, I don't think, on the Switch version. It is worth saying that although they've really had to stretch some of the button usage, I do think all the controls are very well mapped to Switch. I think it is a good console conversion in terms of functionality. And the underlying game itself is excellent. It's the kind of game that really makes you agonize over every decision. Even on the easiest difficulties, if you wait around on a floor for too long, just trying to open everything, which I know for me in a lot of games is my temptation, those monsters just come thicker and faster and harder and make it really, really difficult for you. So there is a real push and pull of, do I want to keep exploring and try and find another party member or a merchant or a source of free food, or do I want to bank what I've got and just get to the next floor? The pixel art is exceptional, really worth highlighting, and I personally am a massive fan of the music, particularly the title track on the main menu, which I love it. It's such a vibe. The onboarding experience is actual crap. It's true. There's just no sugarcoating it. It doesn't do a good job of introducing the new player to how to work it, and it's only really once, if and when you put the pieces together of all the competing interests and what the game is expecting you to do and decide between and work out, that it starts to make sense. And it's only really then as well that you get sort of insights to the wicked sense of humor the game has. So there's all manner of little sort of flavor text interactions between the different groups of people on the elevators between floors. So many laugh out loud little back and forth. It reminded me a lot of when I played Not a Hero and the little conversations they had in the cafe in between things. But a lot of personality and stuff like that is hidden from view until you get a grasp on the gameplay, and I think that really is the crux, which is a shame because, again, the game itself is excellent. I am intending to go back to PC at some point to do sort of direct, fresh comparison, but as it stands as a Switch port, I've had a really good time with it. It's still very, very addictive. It's got that just one more floor element to it. It'd be nice to explore a few more of the characters as well. One of the perks of the Switch version is that it's the deluxe edition, so all the DLC comes pre-installed and pre-included. And I think you get far more characters just unlocked as standard. None of the pods, but the characters.
There's one pod, the organic pod. I think that was it.
Possibly, yeah. But I think, for example, the library pod, that's part of the DLC, and you get the librarian character from the word go. From memory, I thought, and if I'm wrong about this, let me know in the comments down below, just under the like button. I thought that the library pod was unlocked as stock when you got that DLC as well. For whatever reason, in the deluxe edition, that's not the case. But I'm really enjoying revisiting it. It's nice for me personally. I do hope that you both find the fun in it and find your way past that initial misstep. And the same to anyone else who's playing it along with us. Any more thoughts, either of you two, before we jump onto the topic?
Not for now.
No, that's a no and a nada.
Yeah, I think for now I'm just gonna experience it and see what happens.
Speaking of experiencing things and maybe experiencing things prematurely sometimes, our topic this week is spoilers. So this was your suggestion, Alex. So do you want to sort of lead us into what your thinking is behind this one?
Yeah, well, I just thought we could talk a little bit about when is a spoiler, and what the heck are spoilers? And something that I found that was kind of interesting about spoilers. So why don't I start with, as every good video essayist does, the history of spoilers. But just sort of jokingly, like there's this kind of accepted idea that like the idea kind of came about in the 70s. There's like it was in print in a magazine where like there was this segment where the guy would kind of tell you what happens in a movie, and he's like, I'm gonna spoiled essentially, and they would like say like this is what happens within it, and then as time moves on, it kind of becomes a more common thing to refer to movies. But I think as internet culture became a thing, that's when it really was like huge, right? Like on the internet, you can remember like, don't spoil it for me, no spoilers, like that kind of deal. And I think too, like it's usually, I think, been referred to in film and television. Mostly that was where it kind of came from. And then it bled over into games. As games obviously became more narrative focused, we started to hear that the spoiler thing. And I would even argue that that was sort of in the 360 era. Like we've talked about this before narratively when games became more narrative focused. I think that's probably when we sort of, and also when people were more chronically online and easier connected and forums and everything. So it was a big deal. And so it's interesting because actually I kind of want to hit on this maybe first here before we even get into what are spoilers. But I was reading there's like a few articles and like a number of things that have talked about how like spoilers are kind of a good thing. Weirdly enough, for like people's enjoyment of entertainment and of media. And so they talked about how like, and obviously there's a degree to this, right? Like I think if somebody sat down and told you the entirety of a game or novel or movie to you might hamper it a little bit. But knowing a bit of where a piece of media is going, or like what kind of the outcome might be, or what a sort of final piece to something is, can actually like increase the enjoyment of that particular media in viewers and participants. Because apparently part of it is that it primes you for the narrative beats, because analyzing narrative is actually a pretty taxing endeavor, like it requires a lot of like brain power, and it also requires that you have a finesse for understanding narrative. And I think of that particularly in films or in anything that's a little abstract. It can be difficult. And think even in a thriller where you don't know what's supposed to happen in it and you're trying to figure the piece out yourself, which can be a little taxing. And then maybe you get to what the resolution is and you're like, oh, that's not as good as what I was hoping, right? Whereas sometimes if you actually kind of know what's coming before, instead what you're doing is you're watching to see the pieces connect together, right? And you're instead focusing on something a little different. So anyway, I thought that was kind of neat. I was like, oh, interesting. Like this concept where like actually if you're a little spoiled on something, you might actually end up having a better time.
and from a marketing perspective, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it also helps with setting expectations because
Mhm.
sometimes when we come to a piece of work, whatever, if it's a book, a movie, or a video game, sometimes we have these wild expectations of where, as you said, the story or the mystery is going, but also in the game department, how the gameplay is gonna be, or like how the experience overall is gonna be in like this little in this little box. As and the thing is when those expectations are met, like, oh, the combat wasn't as good as I was expecting, or like the world exploration, no, the world was empty, or like the map was a mess, or whatever, then like your expectations aren't exactly met, and then you feel disappointed. But when you know what to expect from something, then you enjoy it more for what it is, instead of not enjoying it because you were thinking of what it could have been.
I think the interesting thing with this is a lot of the discourse is very much film focused because that's where it started. I know for myself, I remember reading a while back that from a marketing perspective, trailers that kind of spoiled the story um, did better by some metric or other than trailers that didn't. It was specifically in context of the trailer for a film called Terminator Salvation, which spoils the big plot twist of that film. Um, I think games are a little bit different because to the extent that your game is not super story focused, the spoiler doesn't really matter. Like if you know how Breath of the Wild ends, you still have 100 hours of game to play. You're not just passively experiencing that story. Um, that said, it's arguably sort of a heightened thing because the the whole thing that spoilers ruin, which is the raw, fresh experience of a narrative beat, it's always going to be heightened by being an active participant in that narrative. And so it probably stings a little bit more to have something like that ruined. Um, yeah, I know for myself personally, I think I've talked about this before with Ghost Trick. That's the plot twist at the end of that was kind of ruined for me accidentally before I played the game. Game is still incredible. Story definitely didn't hit quite as hard as it would have done because I kind of knew what was coming, but it didn't make the game any less excellent.
When they talk about how spoilers to, like, if you are spoiled without your control, right? Because I know there are individuals like my fucking my girlfriend, god, fiance now, but she fucking spoils horror movies for herself because she doesn't want to watch them, but she wants to know what happens. So she'll just read the entire summary of the freaking movie, and like does this with plenty of movies. And so a lot of people like I think there are quite a few people who like to do this. But like you said, if you are spoiled without you knowing you're going to be spoiled, I think that removes some control, right, from your experience of the thing that you're going for. And I also think it depends on the thing that gets spoiled, right? Like I'll be real with you, like for like fantasy and like I don't know sci-fi stuff and like just like west, really just random stories, like dramatic things. If part of it gets kind of spoiled for me, I don't really give a shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's like, um, it's not as important to me. But like something that I do think is a problem, and like when you think of, and again, I guess this is often with movies as well, but like comedies, where comedies put like all the funniest shit in the trailer, it ruins it because now you've
Yeah.
seen it. It's over. You can't, you can't go back. Like you've seen the joke, and the joke is done now, right?
And the joke is different because I suppose you can't recontextualize the joke in the sense that knowing a story beat can still be recontextualized in the other things that happen around and before and after it. And you can still have some feelings with that. Like you say, once you've laughed, you've kind of already laughed.
That's the problem, right? You've got the punchline's been hit. It's over.
But to go back to what you were saying, I think it is interesting to make a distinction between passive and active spoiling. Because the active one, and I think there's a bit of one of the articles that you linked to us when you were proposing this topic. It talks about the idea that some of this is about controlling how we consume media, and the rationale behind that. And obviously, if someone spoils something for you inadvertently, that is the ceding of all control, and it plays things a little bit differently there as well. And I think when we talk about spoiling, we're talking probably more specifically about that passive kind anyway. because that's the kind where you maybe weren't intending to be, but someone's ruined something for you. Do I think it's good? Not really. I think it almost universally bad, because that's a moment of sort of genuine experience and emotion that's taken from you. I think that the more interesting question is whether there's a statute of limitations on spoilers and how you limit that. I mean, we were, just to go back to Strange Things, we were talking about this literally earlier today, because my girlfriend who I was watching it with had seen a friend, and they're like, "Oh, there's a big plot twist in the final episode." And I'm like, "Oh no, don't tell me that," because now I'm looking out for that. I'm not just enjoying the story. I'm like, "Where's the twist going to be?" Still a great episode, but it colors your experience, right?
Yeah.
And is that a spoiler in the traditional sense? Not really. Does it color how I experience that media? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know,
sorry, go on.
because in that case, like, I do tend to think like spoilers is like something that like reveals a truth about, like, you know, the game, the media, the narrative, whatever. But this is also interesting because I do feel like we consider spoilers to be narrative reveals, right? Like telling us things about the narrative. Because when I think about,
again, maybe legacy of movie.
yeah, right.
I think there's a difference between movie and game spoilers, in the sense that I've talked with people that consider gameplay, if you tell them, oh, this is gonna play this and that way, or for example, oh, there's gonna be like this and that boss in this game, then that is a spoiler for them. Or for example, and this is more prevalent on the visual novel / otome communities, the CGs, like the pretty pictures that you unlock as you play, people don't usually don't like to see them before they get to them, because unlocking them is part of the experience, and thus it is kind of a spoiler.
And they will also hint at story beats. I know some of the art books that come with games like that will have like a splash on the first page that says this might contain spoilers for the whole game. When I played World End Syndrome, that was certainly the case. And it's like, please don't read this until you played the game.
Yeah, and see, that's actually part of like, because I do think too, though, that I feel like the gameplay, but I feel like that's a much smaller, you know, amount of people who are bothered by that. And because I'd also say even like bosses, like arguably that's tied in within the narrative, right? Like, oh, you're gonna encounter this particular boss, right? I know obviously there are individuals who maybe you don't like hearing gameplay spoilers, listener, but I know, like, personally, if someone tells me like you're gonna do this thing, I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why, it just doesn't seem to trigger something as much for me in terms of that. But
and again, you almost sorry, go on.
I was gonna say,
I was just gonna say
you go first.
Oh
Rick.
my
God. you almost want, in terms of the gameplay, it's just a brief side anyway, you almost want that expectation setting, because as opposed to media that you're just having sort of broadcast to you, you're an active participant in that side of things. So you almost want to know if it's going to be the kind of thing that you might enjoy or not. And, you know, when you look at game previews and demos and things like that, actually that is you trying to spoil what the gameplay is going to be like.
Yes.
So as to inform your purchasing decision. And again, that's a weird sort of point of difference and comparison between how they work for games versus other mediums.
Well, and I think about it too. One Step from Eden, there's an example where I believe there was some narrative component to that game. And the marketing kind of made me think there was a bit of that. And then when I played it, I was like, fucking what? I was like, there's none. And I'm like, I guess it's fine. But then you see like that disconnect. And I even argued the recent Doctor Strange movie. I won't go into, like I said, I won't go into spoilers.
I know exactly what you mean, though, and kind of, yes, there was a little bit of a bait and switch.
Right, there's a bait and switch between their marketing, and it's not what I expected. And then when I went in and watched the film, I went, fuck you! No! Why did you do that to my favorite character? At that moment, right? I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, you know, like I had that feeling where I was like, God damn it, I thought I was coming in for, you know, a very different experience.
A very different movie, yeah.
And then I get this movie that's worse than the movie that I ththought I was coming for. I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, it's a danger, right? Like, if you don't actually set up my expectations of what I'm going to see, I think there's a higher likelihood of me going, Hur. But then also there's that difference of sometimes, it also depends though, right? Because if it's a media that you know you want to engage with, right? I know I want to engage with this. So I look up everything about it. Then I want to know things, right? But there's also the case wherein there's a surprise thing and you know nothing about it and you simply are curious. And then you go in and you have a fun experience because you had no idea what you're getting into. I think about that when I went to see the movie First Cow. Incredible film. Yeah. Look it up. You know what? Don't. Just watch it. It's great. It actually is a lovely movie. But I also think of Strange Horticulture. I knew fucking nothing about it. But I was like, well, this seems interesting. Why don't I try it out? And then I get super excited about it, right? Chicory is another one, right? Like I just went in, right? But at the same time, it's like those were unknowns, you know? They're not part of some big, larger thing that I have a big investment in. And I think maybe even that's where I kind of want a little more information. I think of some Nintendo games like Kirby. I'm glad that I knew that it wasn't an open world game and that it was level based, because that helped set my expectations. I've heard from some individuals who thought that game was fully open world, and get a little disappointed when they start to play it because they're like, oh, I mean, this is still fun, but it's not what I thought it was, right? Because marketing doesn't really show you that it's actually level based. They mention it, they'll say like level based, but they don't really, you know what I mean? They're not like going super hard on that. So I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts, Paula? What do you think?
Thinking that mainly some of the best experience that I had in video games in general is, and I know absolutely nothing about what I'm go into, especially like I'm thinking Breath of the Wild, which, by the way, I only watched like the 3 or 4 trailers, and I managed to go like completely media blackout for months before I jump into the game. But also like Café Enchanté, that it has a history with the fandom, with the Tome fandom, and for a reason. And I think that going again completely not knowing anything about it was the best decision I've made game-wise in my life. And the same with Code Realize. But for example, I think about Steins Gate, and I actually knew a couple of things in the story, but that also helped me, like, I guess, set my expectations on how to approach the game in particular. And especially on how the messaging system in the game works and how it affects the story. And at that point, I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna use a guide. I'm not gonna go blind into this one. And in general, like going, unless there's like something stupidly like convoluted in the game that might like dampen your enjoyment of it, like, sorry, I love Steins Gate, but yeah, that system to get the true ending was stupid. I rather not know the bare minimum, like, okay, this is like this kind of gameplay. I can see like this a skeleton of a story going on here. Like, yeah, that looks good to me, and I'm gonna play it. Or, oh yeah, this developer does stuff that I like, or, oh, there's this writer and that writer working on it, so yeah, this is gonna be good. But I usually don't like to go into a game knowing what to expect, so I'm like the wrong person to ask about if I think spoilers are good or bad. I usually think they're bad.
One thing I would absolutely love to touch on, at least before we wrap this up, is whether we think there's a statute of limitations on spoilers, and if so, what. I know I've had a couple of heated debates with people about FF7 and its famous spoilery plot twisty thing.
Oh, I know that one. I never even beat that game.
I imagine everyone listening.
I don't know what you're talking about, guys.
Okay.
You don't know? Wow. Okay.
I don't know.
All right, let's keep it that way then. But obviously, it's an interesting one because that game came out over 25 years ago now. Discounting the remake, which, as I gather, does things slightly differently anyway, although I've managed to avoid finding out exactly why, because I do plan on playing that at some point.
Oh, well, the reason is that...
I was right next to the disconnect button. I really was. That call was getting terminated. But
I couldn't resist.
I did tee that up. But discounting the remake existing, is 25 years long enough? Do you get to just talk freely about that situation
I think
in that sense?
I think the reality is there is no like statute of limitations for spoilers because there's always new fuckers being born and they just don't get to experience it, you know? Like I
But
think
again, I think that's... Sorry, go on.
yeah, I think to myself it's like there are some real classic games that I've just never beaten. And I would prefer them not to be spoiled for me, but I also know that a lot of them just will end up being spoiled. So I don't know. I like my thing is I think as long as you give a little warning, like we're going to talk about this, then go to town. You know what I mean? Just because you never know who hasn't experienced it, right? Because personally, I just don't want to be the guy who ruins something for someone. You know what I mean? Like even if it's unintentionally, I'm like, oh shit, that was me. Damn. But I do think if you give a warning, that it's fucking fair game, man. Like you warned them. You know?
And I have to say, my mind's been changed on that one because I used to be of the opinion that, well, you know, games are harder and harder to play the further time out they go. FF7 is slow as all hell today, and like, you know, if it gets spoiled, it gets spoiled. But I think it's one of those where it's just so little effort to say, we're going to talk about this, just FYI. I just think it's a non-issue.
Well, exactly, right? Because I just don't think that it's fair to never... Because I think about this a lot, actually, even with our podcast. I think about how, like, there's times where I really do want to delve in to, like, the specifics of a game, right? And get really, really specific in it. But then I also recognize that, like, maybe I should do that on the forums again or something. Give my spoiler thing. That's too much work on that. But maybe I should. Because it's like, there is value in discussing the intricacies of a game and of its narrative, right? And so if we never do that, just on the off chance of, you know, spoiling someone, then I think you lose a lot. But then also the reality is when you do delve into the spoilers, I'm not fucking watching unless I've played that game. So, you know.
Also very true. Yeah,
like, I'm sure our It Takes Two spoiler cast is probably one of the lowest listened to because people probably want to play before they do that. You know what I mean?
The irony being there's not that, and not narratively anyway, gameplay is a bit, but narratively there's almost nothing to spoil. Like from the outset of that game, you have a pretty good idea of where it's going.
Yeah, true. But that's just...
Yeah, now that I think about it, It Takes Two is one of the games where it's like, oh, you don't want to spoil like the gameplay on this one instead of the story.
It's an interesting sort of flip of almost all the other situations we've been talking about, just because of the nature of the game. You're right.
Yeah, that one is, I guess, that is the what is it? The exception that proves the
exception
rule.
that proves the rule. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually curious now because I wanted to check because we can check our stats on our episodes and stuff. So listeners, you know, fun details in here. But I'm curious to see in the spoiler cast if there actually is any difference because I could just be talking out my ass here, and it could be that they get the exact same amount. No, yeah, they're like half of what our usual listeners.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I wonder if over time they become more though because they're game specific. That'd be an interesting one to keep an eye out on.
But then again, our numbers are crazy all over the place, to be honest with you, because like
also true.
We're a podcast, so like sometimes But actually, okay, you know what though? Our fucking 13 Sentinels one is one of our most listened to ones, and that was a full spoiler cast. So I don't fucking No, if that's full listen throughs, I don't know. But yeah, so maybe that means nothing.
Dear. One little addendum to all of this. It's interesting because we have got a guest coming on in a couple of weeks. And actually, one of the discussions that we had with them prior to them coming on was, well, if we talk about like some of your games, should we spoiler warning? They were like, you know, I'm not really super fussed. And I think we ended up settling on, well, we will just flag at the beginning. We are going to talk about everything. So go and play them first if you don't want to be spoiled, kind of thing.
And they're... Oh wait, that'll be a spoiler, but spoiler for the episode. I was gonna give away.
Oh, shadow it! Don't spoil it.
Yeah, I won't spoil it. There we go. All right. Well, I think that was that's a fun little chat there. I think Rick's mentioned we definitely in the future will have to talk about games marketing because I think that's something that we've never really talked about actually, and I would love to dig in on that because what a minefield that world is.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Also, there's so many different angles to view that from. Like, there's the Dead Island torso angle, there's like the bullshot Colonial Marines angle. There's so many different ways you can look at things. There's also like the good side of it as well, not just the trashy, horrible side. Anyway, another thing for another time.
Well, it's time for How Long to Beat the Game. I am hosting this week, which because I think we've had. Have we done? Is this?
This will complete the first full run
circuit. Okay. Because
the second go of the new format of the How Long to Beat the Game.
It all makes sense, folks.
Nice and simple.
Okay, so let's see here. The game that you will be doing is. I think we've done that one. Oh, fascinating. But does it have enough? Hold on one second. I just want to make sure that it has enough. Okay, this one has more than enough. All right, we're going to do Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 for the PlayStation 2, 3, and Xbox 360.
Oh, I'm not sure how I feel about this one.
How do you write Budokai?
Budokai, Budokai. Budokai.
Just Budokai. It's not Budokai Tenkaichi.
No, just Budokai. Just Dragon Ball Z
Just
Budokai
Budokai.
3. I fucking loved these games, man. Good old Budokai games.
I have not played any of them.
I used to play the Budokai games.
Neither have I, so this is gonna be interesting.
Does it
Good
have like a
time.
proper story mode? It must do.
I don't know.
You win every
Yeah, this one I believe does. But, well, okay, the missions, I don't really know if it's a story mode. It's been a while. I don't know if I played Budokai 3. I think Budokai Tenkaichi 2 or whatever was the one that I really played. Let me see. Budokai Tenkaichi.
Oh yeah. There's a game mode called Dragon Universe according to the Dragon Ball wiki. That looks like
this is the one that I played. The PlayStation 2 and the Wii game. Yeah, I played this shit on the Wii.
It's on Wii.
2.
Yeah.
No. 3 wasn't on Wii. 3, sorry, I'm going to confuse you guys. 3 is a PS2, PS3, Xbox 360 exclusive from North America in 2004.
Oh no, it is a fighting game. It's not like one of the Dragon Ball Z's adventure games. This is
It's
gonna
a
be
Namco
hard.
Bandai game.
I'm gonna cry. This is not gonna go well for me.
Okay.
Now, in addition to the main plus and 100% times, Alex, what is the bonus question that you're going to ask?
I'm thinking about it. Let's see.
Oh, okay.
While you get it here, I guess I couldn't have said any of the platform things there. That could be interesting. No. Yeah, you know what? Let's do what is the total number of replays for this?
Replays.
Yeah.
Okay.
The total number of logged replays. Yeah. That's something different.
Okay. All my answers are with you.
Sweet. Okay. I've got Rick's.
My answer for replays is oddly arbitrary, but the number popped into my head and I went with it.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. You know, go with
I've got no better strategy for Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3. I haven't even watched Dragon Ball, man. I've got no frame of reference whatsoever.
Oh,
I've played Dragon Ball Advanced Adventure on the GBA, and that's my
on the GBA.
only knowledge of the franchise. Yes, great little game.
I gotta say, Dragon Ball. There's a really good. I downloaded like the cut where it's like someone like recut to get rid of all the stupid filler and shit, and really excellent because the first Dragon Ball is like uncomfortably horny.
Yeah, I've heard that actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty gross at times. I'm gonna be real with you. But like the overall
that sounds terrible. Where can I find it?
Yeah, I know everyone's like, "Oh, Alex, bad. Can I have a
Where?
link?" All right, ease up. But Dragon Ball Z is my childhood, man. I would wake up in the mornings because it would play super early here. It would be like 6 a.m. and I would put it in VHS and I recorded episodes. And I remember the entire Cell tournament arc. Me and my younger brother, like I recorded that and we'd watch those all the time. And God, they were good. I remember with Frieza, he's charging up the Spirit Bomb for like 6 episodes. Fucking unbelievable. Dragon Ball Z Kai.
I have cousins that are the same. We just didn't have the channel that it aired on in the UK, so it just went completely past me.
I do think that Dragon Ball Z, if you were not a fan, is insufferable now. There's just no way. Oh, okay. Paula's put hers in there. Sorry, I was just chatting away.
I'm sorry.
Pillar over.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. So Paula for Maine has said 10 hours, and Rick has said 3 hours. So the actual time is 10 and a half hours.
Oh, go
Boom! Point for Paula there. All right, I'm going to put that on there.
Okay.
So for Maine Plus, Rick has said 5 hours. Paula has said 15 hours. The actual time is 16 and a half hours. Another point for Paula. Oh, we're getting close up here. Okay. Next, for 100%. Oh, there's a big difference between you two. Paula has said 20 hours, but Rick has said 60 hours. Let's see. The actual time is 24 hours.
Oh,
damn, Paula! Paula swept the board!
Yes.
Okay.
Wikipedia says there are 11 different playable characters. Some people are lying about their 100% completions. I do not accept that.
Now, the final one here. And this one, again, it's worth 2 points, though, so who knows?
Change.
Let's see. Number of replays. Rick has said 18. Paula has said 50. Rick, you're a lucky boy because it's 20.
Oh my God.
Almost.
So, Rick has just pulled forward. I feel like we should maybe make that one only worth 1 point. I don't know why it's worth 2, but anyway.
I should make it a nice round 5 if I remember correctly. Also, it's a bit of fun, right?
You're right. Yeah, you're right. It is fun. So this means now that this is anybody's game. So Paula and I are tied at 5 points, and Rick is at 6 points. So Rick is just ahead by 1 here. So really, this is anyone's game.
2 points took me from third to first.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So Paula did a real jump up there. So now we're entering into our second round of this. So we'll see. And I think by the end of it, maybe I don't know. I think we did 2 rounds last time, right? So probably 2 rounds this time, maybe 3.
2, 3, something like that. Yeah, we'll see how we go.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, not bad at all. That's it for this week's episode. We will see you all next week.
Take it easy.